Rain in the Face was a chief and warrior of the Hunkpapa Lakota Sioux who played a crucial role in the 1876 Battle of Little Bighorn, where Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's 7th Cavalry Regiment suffered defeat. Renowned for his courage and strength in combat, Rain in the Face reportedly harbored a personal grudge against Custer, believing the officer had killed his brother and sister in an earlier conflict. Some narratives claim that Rain in the Face was among the warriors who attacked Custer's forces during the battle, and may have delivered the fatal blow to Custer himself. However, historians debate this, and the exact details surrounding Custer's death remain uncertain. After the battle, Rain in the Face surrendered to U.S. troops and was imprisoned. Following his release, he became an advocate for Native American rights and gained popularity through Wild West shows, where he shared his battle experiences. Before recounting his story, he encouraged listeners to support the channel by liking and subscribing. He introduced himself with a candid reflection. Once a fierce fighter and hunter, feared by men and admired by women, his heart was once hard but had softened over time. Soldiers feared him, and rival tribes like the Reese and Crows were wary of his presence, checking their hair daily to avoid his attacks. His reputation was formidable, and his name was spoken with apprehension. During a conversation, a man named Harry challenged Rain's toughness by asking about a time when Tom Custer, a smaller man, bested him. This question unsettled Rain, who was a large man himself, 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighing 195 pounds. After some thought, Rain shared his perspective on that encounter and, surprisingly, narrated his version of the Custer massacre with vivid gestures and emotion. For years, Army officers and government agents tried various tactics, kindness, promises, threats, to get Rain to speak about the battle, but he remained silent. His reputation as Custer's killer was well known, even inspiring poet Longfellow. Thus, it was unexpected when Rain finally recounted his story, as recorded by McLaughlin. Rain recalled that 2 years before the major battle, Gall and Sitting Bull's camp was at Standing Rock, where the Hunkpapa Sioux were united in opposition to the government, fearless and resolute. The Yanktonais, in contrast, were friendly Indians who frequented the agency, seeking food and supplies. Life in the hostile camp was lively, filled with dancing, racing, shooting, and games. They had abundant buffalo and deer to eat, and many ponies. Rain was popular with the girls, who teased him to provoke anger. When angered, he was ready to fight. One night, a girl dared him to go to Fort Lincoln and kill a white man. Though he initially refused, citing the danger posed by soldiers and scouts, she taunted him, saying a brave man wouldn't fear such a challenge, and that if he was a coward, she would find someone braver who had danced in the sun dance. This challenge was one Rain could not ignore. While the girls laughed, the young men were fearful, and Rain would have been willing to fight anyone who mocked him. Rain in the Face described how he prepared for a daring raid. He went to his lodge, painted his face black, and armed himself with a gun, bow, and pony. Under the cover of night, he slipped away from camp and traveled 45 miles north to Fort Lincoln. There, he waited 2 days, seeking an opportunity to shoot a soldier. Although he had chances to kill a Ree-woman or a woodcutter, his goal was to bring back a soldier's brass buttons for the girl who had mocked him. He succeeded, and she proudly sewed the buttons onto her shawl. One morning, Rain spotted the storekeeper and a horse doctor near a spring. As Long Yellow Hair and his men rode back about 100 yards away, Rain rushed forward, shooting the storekeeper and striking the horse doctor with his war club. He then fired arrows and cut off some buttons. Hearing the gunshots, Long Yellow Hair charged back, but Rain had no time to scalp his victims. He mounted his pony and taunted his pursuers, who chased him to the Cannonball River. The following winter, Rain went to the agency store at Standing Rock, but was denied rations because he hadn't signed the peace treaty. The storekeeper, known as One Arm, was present along with 30 soldiers. Despite not fearing them, Rain was ambushed from behind, overwhelmed, and thrown into a wagon, then taken to the guardroom at Fort Lincoln. There, he was chained in a cold room with only one blanket, enduring a harsh winter with snow blowing through the cracks. Once, a soldier named Little Hare let him out, urging him to run, but Rain knew it was a trap. He warned Little Hare that if he escaped, he would exact revenge by cutting out and eating his heart. One night, chained to a white man, Rain managed to escape. Although the white man was caught the next day, Rain got away and rejoined Sitting Bull and Gall, who were too afraid to rescue him. To remind Little Hare of his vow, Rain sent a bloody heart painted on buffalo skin. The next time they met, Rain claimed to have taken Little Hare's heart. While most of this story aligned with government accounts of the Sutler and Surgeon Hunsinger's deaths, the group wanted to hear about Tom Custer's heart. When shown a sketch of Custer's last charge, Rain laughed, calling it a lie. He explained soldiers fought with guns and revolvers, not swords, and fought on foot, with every fourth man holding horses. The warriors tied themselves to their ponies, fought in circles, stripped naked, and painted themselves and their horses. Although the sketch showed bows and arrows, they were better armed. Rain noted that soldiers' guns often malfunctioned, with many found on the battlefield still loaded. When their guns failed, the warriors used war clubs to knock soldiers down easily. Some soldiers begged for mercy, but none was given. Rain dismissed the sketch as another false portrayal by white men. To illustrate the real battle, Rain drew a large sideways S shape representing the Little Bighorn River, with their lodges along the banks shaped like a bent bow. When asked about the number of lodges, he said there were many, many times 10, thousands of Indians, at least 1,000 lodges, likened to blades of grass. He recalled Sitting Bull making powerful medicine on a hill, bringing it back in a bag on a coop stick, and delivering a stirring speech. Sitting Bull said the Great Spirit had warned them of the soldiers' arrival, but promised victory. This speech lifted their spirits, and the next day, runners informed them the soldiers were coming. Sitting Bull had the women set up empty lodges to deceive the rescouts, while the brush and bends of the river concealed their real lodges. Although Sitting Bull was a great chief, he did not fight that day. Gall was the head chief, Crazy Horse led the Cheyennes, and Goose led the Bannocks. Rain in the Face led a band of fierce Hunkpapa warriors. They knew the soldiers' horses were exhausted, and that the empty lodges misled the enemy into thinking they faced only a small group. The warriors were prepared and fought courageously, aware that the soldiers made a critical error by splitting their forces. Gall led most of the Indians upriver to cut off the soldiers. When the rescouts stayed back with long yellow hair, the warriors welcomed it, allowing them to come over the bluffs, where young men cut them off from behind. When the soldiers charged, they were met with a fierce line of resistance and fell back under heavy fire, while young warriors behind them opened fire. Officers were seen talking and pointing, but all looked alike to Rain. He did not see long yellow hair during or after the fight. The soldiers sang their death song, realizing they were trapped. The soldiers dismounted, with every fourth man holding the ponies. The warriors closed in like a wave on sand, shooting the pony holders and stampeding the horses by waving blankets. The women then caught the ponies as the soldiers were exhausted. Rain sang the war song and smelled gun smoke, feeling his heart grow fierce and wild. In a frenzy, he rushed in, seized the enemy flag as his pony fell dead, cut the thong, and struck the flag-bearer with his war club. Proud of his deed, he returned to the line amid cheers. The battle continued fiercely, with soldiers' blood and brains splattered on his face, fueling his rage. He mounted a new pony and charged again, shooting and slashing until that pony was shot too. He then took another. At that moment he saw Little Hare and remembered his vow. Fearless and frenzied, trusting his white weasel tail charm for protection, he fought his way toward him. Little Hare recognized him, but the noise was too loud to hear his words. Rain shot him with his revolver, then dismounted, cut out Little Hare's heart, bit a piece, and spat it in his face before riding away, satisfied and no longer wanting to fight. He did not scalp him, feeling his vow was fulfilled. Later, the women killed the wounded, took their belongings, and cut off their boots for leather, even removing fingers to get rings faster. They searched for Long Yellow Hair's scalp but could not find it, as he wore no uniform and had cut his hair. That night, they celebrated with a feast and scalp dance. Sitting Bull claimed credit, saying his medicine made them brave, but Gall contested this, insisting they did the fighting while Sitting Bull only made medicine, causing tension between them. The quarrel between Gall and Sitting Bull prevented them from defeating other enemies on the hill, as both sought leadership and divided the Indians. Rain led his own group, indifferent to their dispute, tired of fighting and eager to dance. When more soldiers came with big guns, they moved north, crossing the border to escape pursuit. Rain stayed there until Sitting Bull returned, and he came back with him, glad to be home. He concluded by saying this was his story, never before told to white men, and he was glad to share it now. When Rain in the Face finished speaking, I asked him who killed Long Yellow Hair if it wasn't him. He replied that no one knows for sure, comparing the battle to fighting in the dark. Mac then asked why Long Yellow Hair wasn't scalped like the others. Rain explained that no one is too brave to be scalped, and the women suspected Long Yellow Hair was hidden beneath other bodies. Mac also questioned the story of Curly, the Crow Scout who claimed to have escaped the fight. Rain dismissed Curly as a liar, saying he wasn't present during the battle and fled like a coward when his pony broke down. Now, around 60 years old, Rain is the only surviving chief who can recount the Custer fight firsthand. Although he can write his name in English, he does not grasp its significance. His English vocabulary is limited to about 30 words, and while he struggles to pronounce them clearly, he understands most spoken English. Rain is known to be brave but morally complex. He values future favors over past ones and keeps his promises, though it requires great patience to get him to make one. Even at his age, he remains physically strong and imposing, embodying the ideal image of an Indian from Fenimore Cooper's novels.